Here we are, gents. Come on. First month under our belts. Sam, the new spot looking good. What you got
Yeah,
behind you? Just
we're
your
you know
setups coming together.
there's not a whole lot I can work with my father-in-law's basement. So I figured, okay,
No, dude, it's sweet.
there's some uh, alcohol bottles behind me, and I think it's a picture of Babe Ruth and Joe DiMaggio. So it's obstructed by my head, but
That's pretty
for
good.
what I got, we are 18 days away from moving into our house. So I'm
Well,
really
That's huge.
excited to have my own space. I'm kind of toggling back and forth about if my recording spot is going to be in my home gym. So I don't know if I haven't told you guys this, but I pulled the trigger on I'm exiting the CrossFit gym. I'm not paying for it every month anymore, and I made an investment in just like we're doing the home gym, and I'm super
Come
excited about
on,
it.
man.
I'm gonna
That's exciting.
pull my car out into the driveway, and then I've dedicated half of the 2-car garage to just be my gym, and I've dumped some good money into it. I've got like gym flooring for it. I've got
heck
an
yeah.
installed rack. I found a guy who's liquidating a CrossFit gym, so I've got all these Rogue plates and Rogue um, uh, bar and pull-up bar, and I'm gonna have my cold plunge in there, and uh, I've got all sorts of fun stuff. So might be a cool studio area too. So we'll see.
Sam, what's your address?
Not telling anybody, psychos.
What do you keep in that cold plunge at these days, temperature wise?
Oh, dude, it's in storage right now, so 0. Um, I I'm excited to jump back into it. I've been on the fence about, do I get a chiller? Do I not get a chiller? They're just so freaking expensive. I don't
You
know.
know, it's
I
insane.
also am like, I could just get like an industrial ice machine. They're actually cheaper than that's what my
Really?
uncle did. Yeah, he had an industrial ice machine that he just got, and then every morning would just dump a bunch of ice into it. And so,
Oh,
yeah, I mean, not like massive, but like, a little like 2x2 ice machine that just kept pouring ice every day, and he would just shove it into um his ice pod, and that's what he would do. So I'm gonna do a little bit more research on it, but I'm like, you know what? I just at this point don't need to spend $500 on a chiller just to
Yeah.
get the water cold. So
so I got
Dude,
this.
you got me so excited that while you were talking, I was looking up gym equipment. I went over to my other tab and I was like,
yeah,
this is an idea. I like it.
but dude, yeah, do it. I mean, pull the trigger. It's like, I don't know. I'm like, I mean, you don't even have your truck in the garage anyway. So just if you can kind of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah,
you know,
reappropriate the space a little bit.
yeah, I'm freaking
For
stoked.
sure.
When you guys come out and visit, it'll be a sweet spot. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well, I'm
got
excited
a. Sorry, go ahead.
for the first no, I was just gonna say I'm excited for the first visit.
well, yeah. What were you saying about your ice pod? No.
I got Yeah, thanks for letting me talk. Jeez.
Yeah, it's okay.
I got a in like it's in my house, and it tells me what the temperature is inside, and then what the temperature is in my ice bath. It's just on
Really?
Amazon. It was literally like $10.
Wow.
So now
That's
Are you
awesome.
adding
look. What do
are
you
you
say?
adding ice to it? Are you adding ice to it, or is it just
No,
like
it's been
just
cold
cold?
enough here to get in. So I mean, it says it has to be under 59 degrees, and like even you see right here, it's like 58.4. This morning it was at like 54. But once it starts getting over, then I'll start pouring the ice in. But even I've noticed because I got the bigger one, like what you have, Sam, and it just I have 6 ice bags, and it's outside. That's the big thing. But
Yeah.
I have 6 ice bags outside, and it only drops at like 3 degrees. So that's why I'm thinking about getting a chiller or ice as well. It's killing me.
Keep your eyes peeled. Father's Day coming up. It's definitely they always do their sales for ice baths rather. So anyway.
Dr. Gary Brecka says 50 degrees and above, somewhere between 50 and 58 degrees is ideal. I just
Really?
listened to that
Hmm.
about a week ago. So
That's
you're
why
sitting in a
my
good
skin is burning in the winter.
sitting in a good spot.
At like 29, it's at like
Yeah,
33.
yeah, he had like 50 degrees as the ideal temperature. I'm forgetting why, but shout out to Dr. Gary Brecka. He's a baller.
Yeah, he's a G.
Is he like an actual doctor, or is he kind of like one of those doctors who's kind of like, I'm a doctor,
I That's a good question. I don't know what his degree's in, but his story is super interesting because he was first employed by life insurance agencies to actually use metabolic data and other like biomarkers to determine what someone's lifespan would be so that they could then price the life insurance. And over the course of his career, he decided that instead of like working for the insurance companies to make money, that he would actually work for the people that were on his spreadsheet to help them understand, like, with the trajectory you're going, I can predict with a really good degree of accuracy how much life you have left. And so he got into like longevity as it's known now, but he was in it really before that term was popular, which
Yeah,
is
interesting.
sweet. Yeah, he's been cool to follow on a couple podcasts, but yeah,
Yeah,
here
he's
we
on
are
our
on our
next.
podcast. Yeah, he's on our next episode. Yeah, that would be a huge
He's
pickup.
not. Anyone who's watching this, we're lying. But soon we'll get him on.
Soon
We
and very
love
soon. After action review though, Sam, the
That's
after
right.
action review type episodes, that's you leading the charge. So Noah's leading
That's
our
what we're
long
doing.
form. I'm leading our kind of like standard modern man episodes, and then we have once a month after action review. So
Yeah. Can I tell you something funny real quick? We are getting into this, but you ever have those moments? I for sure have them more than you two do, but where you just like the things don't go according to plan, and then you get up in front, and it's like it's your turn to speak, and then you're like, "Oh shit!" You're just like you freeze. Have you guys ever had that before? No,
Yeah,
to
you
be
definitely
honest,
haven't, Brad.
my
yeah. Brad doesn't have
personality,
those moments.
I make it up when it comes time.
No.
Yeah.
Damn, you and I can bond on this for sure.
Okay, because dude, I was doing a night the other night, and someone I was like emceeing the night, and someone started speaking, and like the music cut out, and like grabbed the microphone. I was like, okay, we're gonna start in 1 minute, and I was like, oh wait, that's my job. Who's doing that? And then literally we started in 1 minute, and then everything just went for like I was like, what the frick am I like? I sat up there with the microphone. There's all these guys in front of me, and I was like, okay. I just started
Yeah.
talking, and then it was like I'm listening to myself talking while I'm talking. What is it? And then I had a hard reset after I knew the rest of the night was fine, but it was not great. So anyway, after action report. So we are taking a chance to just look in the rear view at what has been what have we been talking about over the last month, and I think in a particular way to really hone in on what are the things that have stuck out to us, where were the bright spots in the midst of the conversation, because I think there's definite times when we were talking where I'm kind of like, okay, this is like we're a lull, right? But then there's moments where you're kind of like, man, if we could keep talking about this for like another hour, I think it'd be straight gold. Um, and I think there's just a lot we can learn from those type of moments in our conversation. So when we look over the last month of episodes, we've had kind of our initial episode back in the game where we talked about kind of the 4 stages every man goes through in life, right? We've had our 2 episodes with Henry and Harrison Schertzinger talking about just their crazy life and inspiration of the gift of how they conduct their lives. And then we kind of wrapped it up last episode with World at War, right? We talked about the conflicts in Gaza and Ukraine, and now in Iran. The thing that I have at least been thinking on that I really wanted to kind of bring to the forefront, because Noah and I, it could have been glossed over if you kind of listened pretty quickly through the last episode, World at War. But we had this kind of initial conversation of I took the stance of there's bad guys in the world, right? I mean, I think that, and I think I stand by that. A couple weeks later, I'm like still stand by that statement. I was reading this book to my kids. Love Jocko Willink and a lot of the information that he puts out there. And there's these 2 children. He has 3 children's books. 2 of them, though, we've read through recently, which are called The Way of the Warrior Kid, which is amazing because he just got sick of people talking about the diary of a wimpy kid. And he's like, I don't want my kid to be a wimpy kid. Why would any kid want to be a wimpy kid? He's like, I want to be a warrior kid. And so he wrote these books of the warrior kid, and I highly recommend them, especially for any father who's raising young sons. My son Judah is 5.5 years old, and he loved it. Like every night, it was like chapter after chapter, just wanting to keep reading, just devouring it. But in there, I mean, there's little nods to kind of the military culture a little bit, not in a way where you're framing people as bad, because and what I love about Jocko and the way he's really trying to impress upon young people is like fighting is always the last option, which I think is actually a very Christian ideal. He's like, okay, get as much intelligence as you can on a person, learn as much as you can about them. What does mediation look like with the bad guys before you have to ultimately fight? Like fighting is the last resort.
That's just war
But
theory.
yeah, but they're bang.
Yeah.
Jocko's a Christian. Shocker. But there's this, I think that's kind of the thread that I want to pull on for a second is like, I actually stand by the statement of, that there are bad guys in the world. And like, in a lot of ways, they're not just overseas, they're domestic too, right? I mean, think about the military that says they are going to defend our country against every threat, both foreign and domestic. Like I don't know. I think that there's something there. So I wanted to kind of bring that up and kind of open us up of like, what, if you can remember that moment in the conversation, what were you thinking slash what are your thoughts on the situation? Maybe we can dive into that topic a little bit more of, um, what were you thinking slash if there was disagreement, where was it at?
Yeah, yeah, totally. This was a great conversation. I think that when I was hearing you say that, and again, I'll preface everything I'm saying with this: I am not a theologian. Okay, so I just want to get started there, and I want to look more into it. Even as we talk, we can fact check what I'm saying. But I remember Brad, you said this when we were maybe in like one of our first years working together.
Hmm.
You would always quote your dad, and you would say how your dad would always say growing up as you guys would be riding through Portsmouth, seeing drug addicts or seeing, just the rough life of a lot of people who lived in
Hmm.
that small town. That your dad would always say, like, there's never a bad kid. Like no one was ever born a bad kid, and that's always stuck with me. And the more I've learned, the more I truly do believe that I do believe that like when like babies coming out of the womb are not bad, and I think that they're born obviously with the propensity towards concupiscence, which we all
Hmm.
have. But I think that yeah, I would be one to say I'm a much bigger believer in nurture over nature, and I think there could be some like mental health instabilities. There could be like chemical imbalances in your brain, right? But outside of that, I don't even know if that would consider making somebody bad either. Like I don't know if that would consider you bad if you have those chemical imbalances. But I think so much of this is nurture. Even just in this situation, we're talking about people, like in Iran who, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it's like it was a guy from Iran talking about it. He's like, you don't understand. There are moms who are honored, like they are celebrated, and they celebrate when their kid goes and blows a building up for Allah, right? And like, so I don't think that that kid grew up thinking innately that that was a good idea. I think that was nurtured into them. But I don't think that makes them bad per se. Like, I don't think they were born bad. I don't think they are bad.
Hmm.
I think they've made bad decisions that have made them, uh, act evil, and cause them to think in an evil way. But I think what I'm stressing here is I don't think they were born bad. And I think that was
Hmm.
the that I was wrestling with you on is I don't think anyone is born bad. I think they're nurtured into behaviors, um, and experience certain traumas that cause them to operate in evil, which then that's when it gets interesting. They're operating in evil. So are they now bad? I think my big thing I want to stress is that I don't think they were born bad. If that makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, man. I think that it's pretty nuanced, which is my classic take on things. It's there's a I th- I think it depends on how we define uh bad. So like I think that there's I here's the trouble that I think we can get in sometimes is like there are things that I do in my life that are bad, but I wouldn't consider like Brad a bad person. Like, I think when we were referring to bad people, it's people who tend to have a proclivity and desire to do things that are detrimental to other people. I think that's probably it, right? Like, because there's times when we're in like how many group texts together, and there's sometimes I'll catch my heart, like I say something and it's totally just a dunk on someone. It's totally to humiliate the other person, and I'm like, that's not a good thing to do. But I wouldn't say that is my normal mode of operation, nor would I say that that's coming from a real desire of mine. It's coming really from like a contorted desire. But I do think that there's truth to what my dad's always said, which is there's no such thing as a bad kid. I totally agree with that. What I will say is it gets kind of tricky to me whenever you have people that I think excuse responsibility from people who do detrimental things with lines like hurt people. I think that's probably true eh, for the vast majority of cases, that most people that are like hurting people have been hurt and then carry that out in a certain way. But I totally think that because of what we believe in the faith, that there is an opportunity that all of us have. It's the Alexander Solzhenitsyn line that the line between good and evil runs through the heart of every man. I think I'm paraphrasing that, but I think there's comes times in our life where we get to choose to turn the light switch on or to turn the light switch off, where we get to choose to live in what is good or we get to live in what is evil. And evil's not even something in itself. It's the privation of the good thing.
Yeah,
But
that's good.
we can starve good out of us, I think. Which I think I think then that there's a wrestle in my mind of like what do you make of that person? And then that has all kinds of questions of faith on it. Like how do we win those type of people back? Is there any way to win someone back that's made that decision? Like there's a lot that comes to mind after that.
Yeah. I think, I think it's a complicated question, in which to our to our point right now, it's like, it's complex, right? Especially when you're thinking from a Catholic lens, Christian lens. So I think, Noah, you and I probably aren't that far apart. I totally agree. Every person's made in the image and likeness of God. But here's where I think I want to separate is like every single person has inherent dignity, right? So there's like, no matter if you're Hitler, no matter if you're Stalin, no matter if you're no matter if you're a drug dealer, you have like an inherent dignity, right? There is a dignity that each person carries because they're made in the image and likeness of God. But people are made born good. But then to Brad's point, there's a privation, right? And I think people can't starve that out of themselves. And I mean, you think about those examples that I said, right? Hitler. Would I say Hitler was a good guy, right? Was he good? No, I don't think he was good. Like, I think he was a
Yeah.
bad guy. And that's precisely why it was like the entire world was focused in on and had him in the crosshairs, right? I think, uh, I don't want to, I don't want to make it seem like I'm glorifying in any way, like, death or killing or like going out and like popping off, like terrorists. Because I think Corey said earlier, it's like there is this line where you have to. I mean, and this is where I love again what I was talking about with Jocko's book. It's like, okay, every military mission, you don't just say, okay, we're gonna go kill that dude. Like
Yeah,
there's a
vigilante
step.
justice isn't a virtue. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, that's right.
you learn everything you can about the enemy. Like, okay, even in the book, like I love the parallels. Like there's this kid who and in the second book that we just got done reading, it's like there's this kid, Mark, who's been trained by his uncle, Jake, who's a Navy SEAL, and he's there during the summer. But this kid, Mark, he's at summer camp, and he's got this bully who calls him kind of a stupid name. He's like, calls him Plate Face, because he says his face looks like a plate. And Mark gets so mad, he gets so angry, and all he wants to do is like go Brazilian jiu-jitsu on his butt and just like beat him up. And Jake is like, what's that? What would that do? Right? You don't know anything about him. And so he challenges Mark. He's like, you need to learn everything you can about him. You need to follow him. You need to have like you need to basically get intelligence on him. And through a day or two of intelligence, what Mark comes to find out is, okay, Nathan's parents aren't around. Like Nathan has no money. Nathan is wearing the same clothes day after day and doesn't wash his hair, doesn't wash his clothes. He has to beg for food from storefronts. And I mean, Brad, this is probably like some people that grew up in your town were probably like this, right? Um, and then it begins to give Mark a frame of reference of, okay, if you grew up without food, do you think you'd probably get a little jealous of people that had food their whole life? Or if you never had money, you think you'd be jealous and a little angry at people that got everything they ever wanted and never needed anything, right? And Jocko says it without saying it, but he begins to, there's this parallel very clearly if you're an adult reading it of like, it gives you a little bit of empathy for people from the Middle East that are radical Islamists that look at America and are like, death to America, death to America. And it's like, okay, I can to some degree have empathy for why they believe the way they believe, right? It's because to a lot of those individuals, they look at America as the enemy, right? And to some degree, it's like, there could be a case for that. But then is it justified? It's not justified. It's not justified to want to blow up buildings or to massacre individuals or whatever these things are, right? And so I guess where I'm going with this is like, I do think that there becomes a line where someone starves so much of the good, like they deprive themselves so much of the image that they were made in, right? There's dignity, but then there's also action, right? So when you think about mortal sin, it's like the death to the soul or cutting off life to the soul. I mean, I think about there are people like, would I allow my daughter to be in a room with someone who has a pornography addiction? Yes. Like that doesn't make someone a bad person, right? There are plenty of men that I know in my life that have pornography addictions. That doesn't mean I think they're going to harm my daughter, right? It doesn't mean that I'm going to let them be alone, like someone be alone with my daughter. And does that make sense? But am I going to let my daughter be alone with Charles Manson? Hell no. No. Why? Because he's a bad dude, right? Like there's a dignity, but then there's been an extreme privation where he has conducted his life in such a way where it's bad, right?
Yeah.
So I guess
Can I
don't know.
press you on that for a second, Sam?
Sure.
What do you think? I think I agree with most of what you're saying. What do you think makes it beneficial to have a category for bad people, for like bad men? So because obviously if we're saying like, hey, there are bad guys, like why does that category in your mind matter to have? Right? Because we could also just say like, yeah, there's bad guys, but we're not gonna talk about it. It seems like you're like, no, there's bad guys, and we need to make sure we know that. And I'm just pressing you to kind of get to the why behind the question.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I think it's like when I am teaching, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think Jesus even does it. I mean, I can be kind of blatantly honest. Like I think Jesus teaches that there are bad people, right? He says it very clearly of there are wolves in sheep's clothing, right? There are thieves that will not come through the sheep gate, but they will go over the sheep gate, right? Drives the point that there are people in the world. He's not talking about demonic spirits. He's talking about people. He's talking about things that are coming to not just demonic spirits or things that are going to come kill, steal, and destroy, but people themselves that come uh, to deceive or to take them away from salvation. And I think for me, I mean, I mean, even like my 5-year-old, it's like to some degree, it's an inherent understanding of reality. Why do like if you were to ask a 5-year-old, because I do, like, what do you want to be a cop? Why do you want to be a policeman? I want to get the bad guys. Right? It's pretty clear. There's good guys, bad guys. Like to me, it's not wanting to categorize people a certain way because I want to demean them. But I just think like if we can, and this is where I think to take ourselves out of the mindset of kind of an overly ministried world. Like I actually think it's not quite as like, it's not quite as, scrupulous to just say it. Like I think sometimes we can get really scrupulous and say, oh, I don't know, but like they're not a bad person because they have the image of God and like but they're good in their core. And it's like, I don't know. I just think it's calling the kettle black. It's like, sure, they have dignity, but like that person's bad, like a bad dude. I mean, I sent you guys a screenshot a couple weeks ago of that FedEx driver who literally is delivering presents to this girl, like this family, abducts a 7-year-old girl, drives around in the FedEx van and then dumps her body. And then the next day is delivering presents, like delivering packages in that neighborhood, and is pissed off because everyone's doing a search party. And he plays dumb. And they're like, he's like, what's going on here? Why is everyone in the streets? They're like, oh, there's a little girl missing. Do you know anything about this? And he's like, no, I don't know anything. Just go on, get out of the way. And he's acting. It's like, that is evil. Like that is absolutely evil. Like that is a bad guy. Like to me, I mean, it matters because it's the truth. Like that's part of the truth.
Yeah, it's the truth. I'm hearing that it's the truth. That it's a category that we can both teach those around us to avoid, and a category that we can teach those around us to fight, which I think is probably what you're saying. It gives us an ability to stand against that thing. No, on your side, what do you think we lose if we have the category of like bad guys? Because again, I know you were making the nurture versus nature thing, and what it seemed like you were saying is like no one's made bad, but it also seemed like what you were saying was even as they become quote unquote bad, it still seemed like you were reluctant to kind of categorize that.
Yeah, I mean, my fear with this kind of conversation is just not even this conversation, but my fear with what Sam's saying is that if, again, when I'm saying this person is bad, what I'm communicating is, and again, Sam, I think you probably agree with me on this, but I think when I hear that, like this is a bad person, I hear that they're innately bad. And I don't believe that, because I'm like, no, they're not innately bad. And if I believe that, and if I communicate that, especially to, like, I'm having a kid in 3 weeks, right? Like, if I communicate that to my child, um, they could grow up legitimately believing that that person is innately bad. And I'm like, no, 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 no. I want my kid to know that that behavior is atrocious and awful and horrible behavior. And it is bad behavior. It's actually evil behavior. But I don't want my kid or myself, um, I don't want there to, I think this all comes down for me to belief. I don't want to have a belief that would make me truly believe that somebody is something that's unchangeable. And I think that's why I'm nervous about the identity statement, and like fearful about the identity statement of that person is bad. Because for me, I'm like, no, no, no. If I believe that person is bad, then I don't know if I can believe that they can change. If that is their essence, if that's what they are innately, and I think that's where it's problematic for me, is I'm like, no, I they operated, and I believe this is how Jesus responded towards people and acted towards people, was he was able to see through their bad behavior to see who they truly are and bring them
Yeah.
to repentance.
Saint Dismas, right? Good thief. I mean, there's no greater example of like people walking by, like those, actually not just two of those dudes, those three dudes, they're bad dudes. Like that to the world perspective, you don't crucify a good guy, right?
For sure.
You see Saint Dismas up there, literally a saint, probably did things in his life. So I guess I concede the point, or say the thing. Like, I don't think anyone's beyond redeeming. I just think that it's a fair category to put people in, that I don't think it's like they're corrupt, they're damned. They're like, I'm not saying they're damnable people. I'm saying that's a bad person. Like, that's a bad person. They're acting in a way that is unbecoming of a human person.
I agree with that.
Well,
So
and
it's like
they're also unredeemable if they've committed to not being redeemed, right? So I think that's where I get, like, malevolence is real, and I think that's a huge issue I have with some of the
yeah, I mean, dude,
some of the like pop psychology, I think is what I'm trying to call it. You know, like this,
yeah.
like, hey, everybody that does any bad thing, it's because something bad happened to them and they internalized it and then manifested it in a different way. I'm like, I don't find that to be true. I don't even think you could find that to be true with, like, we've all seen, like, young kids who actually are just better developed than the kids around them. They don't have a bad home life and they become bullies. That's actually because they're growing and they're playing power games, and that has to be limited. But over time, as those power games scale, if someone's committed to the power game and not committed to actually the upholding the dignity of every human person game, I do think there becomes a time where you become so wedded to that it's not that the Lord wouldn't redeem you if you came to him. It's just that you've made the commitment to never go to him. And that's why this category is, I think, where the ultimate real disagreement's at. Is the category good or bad? And I fault towards the category being good, but I fault towards the category being good because, again, what I want to teach those around me is there are things to be avoided. There are things to fight. So, if I'm raising a son, which I'm not yet, but we minister to plenty of middle school and high school boys. It's like, this is actually a group that I don't only want you to avoid becoming like, I want you to fight actively against the thing that they are trying to implement or do. Now,
I agree
again,
with
I
that.
don't mean fight physically right now. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, no, no. So
I'm just
I
playing it out
I
loud.
don't, again, well, again, powers and principalities. I want to fight powers and principalities. I want my kids to be raised in a way where they are seeing actions and saying, and again, I don't have kids, so but like, I want them to be, I want to, because this is how I want to see the world. I want to see the world in a way where I don't hate the politician. I don't think that politician is evil. I think that they have participated year over year, time over time, decision after decision, in a way that is unbecoming to who they're meant to be. But if I am entering into this mindset where I do believe that they're evil, then I think that's where I get concerned about the redemptive element, and that's where I'm like, no, I want to keep hope for that person. I want to keep hope and I think if we can operate as Christians in this way, that is how we can actually kill the identity politics that are happening, the us versus them mentality. I think it's one of the most evil things out there. The us versus them is I think rooted in this kind of thinking, and that's why it's so why we have so much us versus them behavior. And so I think my whole thing, and again, this is where I think we would disagree, and I think you two would probably be in agreement, and I think I would disagree. But I don't know a story of somebody. I don't know anyone in my life who just made bad decisions for no reason. Like, I don't know a Joker character in my life. I like you can look at Joker and but then they made a movie. Well, that's a whole other story. But like I don't know a Joker character in my life who just burns money for the hell of it. You know, like who's just causing chaos because they love chaos. I know a lot of people who had a lot of things happen to them as kids, and then they had a chance to make a decision, like you and I did, and they made the wrong decision, and that is on them, and they are responsible for that. I'm not trying to take anything away from that, but I don't know anyone who just was born bad and made and just loves chaos, and anyone who would be that way, I think would have a chemical imbalance. And so that's the piece I'm wrestling in is like I want to have hope that everyone has the ability to change, and that what I'm fighting is powers and principalities, not people. And I think that's the part that I'm kind of pushing in on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things where it's like, then I don't know, man. Like, I just don't know that I can honestly, and I'm not trying to make this about war and like, I will say this before I go to this point. Like, I believe it to be a rarity that people are in the category I'm putting them in. So, like, the bully on the playground, I don't think is a bad guy, right? Like, I don't think that the
It's
person
only when that
who,
scales over time and it's in a commitment. Yeah, keep
yeah,
going.
man. I mean, I think I remember being like, I remember being in third grade listening to this is on my parents. They should never have let me be around the news at this age. But like, I remember listening to a interview of what Saddam Hussein said he was going to do to his daughter. Like he was going to rip her innards out. Like he was going to take her reproductive organs and shred them out of her body. And like this, I'm like, that's evil. Like that is a bad guy. And I think again, I'm not trying to make it all about war, but I'm thinking about men who I know that are devout Christians, devout Catholics that have served, right? And it's like the reason we're here, not as a Islamic nation right now, is because those men put down the bad guys, right? Like to think about like Dom Razo or Jocko or Sean Ryan or these people that I'm like, I know you saw combat. Like I know that you put down some of these bad guys. And like, I think a lot of those, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but I'd be like, yeah, I almost can hear them in the back of my head of like, yeah, no, you can believe that. But like, I'm going to teach my kids to stand up for the stand up for the kids you won't teach your kids to stand up to. Right. So it's like you have a safety in your home because you can believe what you want to believe, but in reality, someone's got to do it. And if you don't go and attack the bad guy, then great. They're going to invade your home. They're going to invade your, and it's like, at push comes to shove, there's a bump in the night. Are you taking out the bad guy? Are you going to just like surrender and say, like take me and my wife and my kids? Like, no, there's an instance of like, eh, there is an evil that is present and you have to be willing to confront the evil. Like,
Yeah, I think
yeah,
that's where the tension's in the category. The tension's in the category because I'm seeing a lot of agreement. What I think Sam is saying is that it is for that reason that the category is a good thing. No, what you're saying is I think I agree with most of those things. I still think the category is unhelpful. Noah, do you think that any part of it has to do with us like living in the West though? Like, because I'm curious. I'm uh there's a book called Ordinary Men that I haven't read, but I've read excerpts from, and I've heard people like Jordan Peterson talk about. And Ordinary Men, effectively, it's the story of how ordinary police officers and soldiers in Nazi Germany could become the sorts of men that would heinously murder pregnant women, for example. And it just walks through how these ordinary men over time allowed their pursuit of power or prestige or acceptability, or like it was just this slow methodical commitment to the most heinous type of reality. I think that to lose a category where I could say that that person has become a bad guy, I think does lose something from just our ability to talk about what we want for the world. But I'm open to what you're saying in the sense that, like, yeah, if that person finally came into touch with. Well, but no, I struggle with that too. It's the balance in justice and mercy. Like, man, it is hard. If I'm being so honest, it is really hard for me when I think about a convict who has murdered 15 people who comes to the Lord at the end of his life. I do struggle with that. It's like the workers in the vineyard. So if I'm not trying to come at this saying that I'm like purely objective. I still think I have subjectivity in my feelings on that because it's tricky because the worker in the vineyard, the parable where it's like, yeah, they came in for 30 minutes and I've been working all day and they got the same wage as me. That to the nth degree is they've done a ton of evil in their life, Lord. And now they claim to love you. And so I'm not even saying that that's not possible. They couldn't come back into touch with their goodness and stuff, but it makes it hard for me because I like the category, but I like the category because I'm pretty type
Well,
A.
yeah, I don't even know. I don't know if the tension's actually in the category. I think the tension's in when. I think the tension's in when the rubber hits the road. So I think that's what Sam's saying. It's like, great, in your brain, like, and I'm having fun with this, but like, Sam, I think what you're saying is, no, it's really cute that you have this mindset and you want to teach these kids this mindset, but like, when something happens, what happens? And I have a very close family member who's in the military, who's kicking butt, and I believe in it. I think the way I like to think about this is, there's a story that I loved growing up of my mom and my dad. I think they took my brother to his first ever concert. I think my brother was in high school, and they went to this concert maybe in Cincinnati, and essentially, like, I think I get if this part mixed up a little bit, but I think either my mom was trying to buy a ticket or she was trying to sell a ticket. And I think she was trying to buy a ticket, and this guy was selling a ticket, and basically he said, I want this much. My mom was like, oh, I'm not paying this much. This is what I'd be willing to pay. And he called her the B word. I'm not gonna say the word, but he called her the B word. Uh like, my brother tells a story, because I wasn't there. I was too young to be there. But my brother, like, was in high school, and we saw our dad get, like, heated when he was disciplining us. He would never, like, lay a hand on us or anything like that, but he would just get, like, frustrated. But we had never seen him in a moment of, like, defending my mom. And apparently, like, um, this dude called my mom the B word, and my dad, like, turned his head on a swivel and, like, looked at him, and, like, my uncle was basically, like, had to hold him back, and he like, scared the frick out of this guy because of what this guy said to my mom. And I'm like, that to me, I think personally, that is a healthy thing.
Sure.
Because what I'm seeing is, and it's almost like disciplining a kid. There is behavior that we will not tolerate. And that's what I believe in. And so I think, like, when the rubber hits the road, the IRGC soldier is not bad. Is not innately bad, but he is participating in a behavior that we will not tolerate. So right now, and I'm not even saying I agree with us going to war with Iran. I don't even know if they have actual stuff to build nuclear weapons. That's a whole other debate. But the reality of what President Trump's saying right now is, there is a behavior they're operating in that we will not tolerate. We will not tolerate the building of a nuclear weapon for a country that says death to America. So he's saying there's a behavior we won't tolerate, and we will fight to the death until we know that cannot happen, right? Again, a lot of controversy in the middle of it. I'm not even sure I agree with it, but that's what's being said. And I think, kind of connecting it to what we're talking about here, that's what I deeply believe in is, okay, that person across from me is not bad. However, they're operating a behavior that will not be tolerated. And that's the call of the man, is to protect, right? And so I think it's super important to kind of, that's how I went when the rubber hits the road. That's what I want to operate in is, listen, son or daughter, that person that did that atrocious thing, they aren't innately bad. However, that will never enter the bounds of this family. And if I'm talking to my son and he sees his little sister getting, like, yeah, Sam, you have two older boys and a younger daughter, right? If anyone ever crossed your younger daughter, you would want your sons to cut that right there, right? To
Beat
like,
the
enact
shit out of 'em. Yeah.
discipline.
We
Yeah,
don't we don't
it-
we don't bully and
yes.
we don't get bullied.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think, like, that right there is, I'm like, yes, I want you to I identify that as bad behavior and cut it and not allow for it and not tolerate it. but to not say that that individual in and of themselves is evil.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we could talk circles on this whole thing for a while. I think to your point, Noah, this is less of a philosophical question if we could distill it down. And I think it becomes more of a leadership question, right? So this is not for us men that are listening, this after action report. This is kind of one of the hot button things that I felt like I wanted to press post month into the podcast, and really even kind of distill it down to just like, okay, it doesn't really matter to some degree how you view the world in this way, right? Can we agree on that? Is it doesn't like, no, if you and I disagree here, it's not a matter of salvation. Like I hope not, at least, because if not, I'm screwed. You're taking the more merciful approach, and I'm accountable to every word I say. So there is a reality, though, that if we can distill this down, I think it's much more about how do we approach life. Like to Brad's point earlier, it's as a man, am I teaching my children? Am I leading them in the way of how to extend mercy or when to draw a line? Am I teaching them when to trust someone who's hurting you or to protect yourself and run from them? Am I teaching my children when you stay in a fight or when you walk away, like how to pray for your enemies or just resent them? Like there's kind of this leadership side of this, right? Okay, um if people are always bad, then maybe just F them and pop them every time, right? But like there's a reality. Guys,
I was
come on.
nodding along, and then you said pop them, and I'm like, I probably did nod
Yeah,
along too.
Let's put that one.
I'm like, I was sitting there with Whitney the other day. We were walking, and I couldn't stop thinking of one of our mutual friends who there's just a funny situation. You remember we were setting up for the first Damascus Day, and he was like, "We gonna pop some Terrys. We gonna pop some Terrys."
Yeah, that's tough. That's
Anyway.
the Key and Peele bit.
Yeah. But I think to bring it back, I think that's probably what I want to maybe as we look to land the plane here in the next few minutes. Like, I think that's what this really becomes is like, what do we learn and how do we implement it as into like a leadership perspective as opposed to just a philosophical question? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, that's why I was trying to stress the category piece, because I think my biggest my biggest argument in all this is I want to maintain the category of bad guys so that I can present something to run from and something to protect against. And I think that those two things I value. I'm not even saying in the category of bad guy that means they're bad in their essence. I'm saying that they're bad in their action. And because they're bad in their action, those are the sort of people that we are avoiding and the sort of people that we are protecting against. And I don't mean avoiding in the sense of like never reaching out or evangelizing or like hooping with them. Like I'm not saying anything like that. I'm saying just in general strokes, like these are the sorts of actions that we avoid. And the people that are regularly doing those actions, we avoid them too. And these are the sort of actions that we protect against. And if those sort of actions are happening around us, we protect against it as well. So I'm maintaining the category, not to condemn a people group's essence, but to hold people responsible for their actions and to name it something. And again, I know that can just be semantic debate, but I think that's the reason I value it, because I would hold both at the same time. There's no such thing as a bad kid. Over time, there are the sorts of people that commit to the wrong way of doing things. And I want to maintain a category for the people that over time maintain that bad way of doing things so as to create something to, again, run from or fight against, depending on which one's most appropriate. But again, we could probably have an entire show just on what I'm saying there, but that's kind of where
Yeah.
my
It's even
mind's
kind of
going,
like
not in a philosophical sense.
it's even kind of like escalating. Like you think about consequences and escalation, right? Like I think even in my fatherhood, it's one of those things where um, if my child is making poor decisions, bad decisions, it's not like I immediately go to like corporal punishment. Like it's okay. You get a warning. Okay, if you're going to ignore the warning, you get a timeout. If you do something really egregious, you get a spank. Like if you're really really egregious, maybe it's something you're like, I've never had to go beyond a spank, but maybe you're like you're grounded, right? Um, but you think about that even in the midst of the world, like there's consequences to bad behavior, and I mean, right? You can get put in jail. You can be put in prison. You can be in some states. You can be killed. Like you can be death penalty, or a whole swath of a nation that represents bad behavior can have war put on them, right? I think it's inside the human condition to have a consequence to a corresponding uh, bad behavior, if you will. So I don't know. I think it's one of those things that uh, is kind of self-reflective for me a little bit. Okay, like on the justice mercy side of things, I have to be very, very careful because I think sometimes I can be almost I can almost seek justice too much as opposed to mercy, right? So, and yeah, I have to be very, very careful there. There was a story of Saint Therese of Lisieux in her convent in Carmel, where there was during this time there was the Jansenist heresy, which basically was this like people are bad, right? There's like and I'm not calling myself a heretic right now. I'm saying there's an inherent evil to like the flesh and an inherent evil to humanity, which is just in complete contradiction to creation itself, right? And
Done
and
covered in
Saint
snow.
yeah, Saint Therese of Lisieux had this confrontation with this one religious sister who is had a Jansenist mindset. And she said, "Sister, if you want God's justice, then you'll have God's justice." And it was basically ended up being this kind of like thing of like, yeah, you're gonna go to
That's
purgatory,
good.
you're gonna go to hell. Like there's this, if you want his justice, you'll get his justice. And I think knowing that about myself, I'm like, okay, I have got to make sure that if I was sitting with this, I called both of you guys actually today and told you about this man that I was like in tears with, 72 years old, has had several children. And the way that he explained discipline with his children, I was just like, I mean, he talked about his three boys that he had in succession. And he's like, he said, I demanded a lot of my sons because I knew that they had a lot to give. But he's like, when I was he said, my wife allowed me to be hard on them because she knew that I would give that much more love to them, right? Like there's this degree of if you're going to go hard on somebody, if you're going to demand a lot of somebody, you have to be willing to give that much more love. I think sometimes it can be almost like reverse in some ways for me in my fatherhood. It's like, okay, you can push hard, but like the love's not measuring up. And so I don't know. I think even as I'm listening to this, it's like, okay, no bad kid. My kids are not bad kids, but it's like, okay, how do I take this principle home first? It's like, okay, when I experience bad behavior, I've got to be able to ride that line of justice and mercy. That's what's like speaking to me through this conversation a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Curious what
totally.
it speaks to you guys.
I love that. I think the big thing here too, and it was cool because this month when we had the Schertzingers on, they talked about this as well. So I mean, it's this reality of like, um, yeah, it was when Henry was talking about the 5 stages of leadership, right? Like, it's the same thing. The first step here, and this is what I'm getting. The biggest takeaway I have is that you have to be with the person, right? And I think that's what Christ did so well was he did call out evil, but he also was in the muck and the mire with them. And I think that's the biggest thing is like the people that um especially like in the as I enter into the kid world here in 3 weeks, like that's what I have to remember is like I am gonna demand a ton from my child. I'm gonna demand them to be great, and I'm gonna be really hard on them when they make evil decisions, right? And bad decisions. But am I willing to be with them, or am I desiring to kind of sit back in the on the bench or in the stands and be like, "You suck. This is where you're terrible," but I'm never kind of in it with them. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing in my leadership as a man. Am I just a critic, or am I somebody who's calling out evil, not tolerating it, but being in it with the person who's trying to figure that out for themselves?
Yeah, that's the key, to be in it with them instead of a critic from the sidelines. That's the I mean, that's the call of every man, right? Like, our responsibility to those we've been entrusted is to be in it with them. And I think that yeah, I think what I'm taking I was actually thinking about our first episode with the Schertzingers where, Harrison and I were going back and forth a little bit on him kind of, like, drawing the line of, "You need to just do it." And I was like, "Yeah, but some guys that are gonna hear that are gonna say, 'I've tried to do it, and because I'm not doing it, I'm just gonna rest on my laurels.'" So I was trying to kinda balance it to both sides where, like, some people you need to go, "Hey, you need to make something of your life, go get it," and they'll go get it the next day, and some people need the bar sufficiently low that someone like them could be 1% better tomorrow. And we've talked about that a lot on the show, but holding that tension, I think it's the same tension here. It's like holding that tension of yeah, everybody makes mistakes and chooses things that um, are not what we're called to. I do think that we have a real important conversation to have as Catholic Christian men on what do we do in a world that's quickly running away from the things we would call good. And even if we don't have the category of bad guys, like I was suggesting that I think I would like to hold to, what do we do to uphold the good and challenge the bad? And we're gonna have to have an ongoing conversation about that, because yeah, because we're in a post-Christian reality, and I think there's gonna be a lot of conversations to be had around that.
Yeah. And I love kind of the way that this conversation kind of unfolded because I think about, we call this AAR, right? And it comes from that kind of military term of after action report. So after an event's unfold or after some semblance of a conflict, a commissioned officer has a responsibility to sit down and give a military after action report to their superiors. And, a lot of these have kind of core stages to them. One of which is like review what happened. So looking in the review of like what happened behind us, like what did we talk about in the course of this month? Analyzing why did it happen? Okay, so hey, we talked about bad. I want to go into that for a second. Like, what was it about that we were trying to get? What was the point that we were trying to speak there? Identifying lessons learned. So I mean, okay, great. I can say from that, I learned that I need to not be such a hard individual toward justice and mercy in my life. Like I actually have to balance because I think this is perfectly exemplified that if I'm someone who's willing to very quickly say that there are bad people in the world, then I have to be just as quick to say, all right, and the Lord also approached Saint Dismas on the cross, right? And he extended him mercy. So I think being able to identify like what can we learn and then what are improvements? So when we think about kind of like the last stage of an after action report of like when you think about okay, this is what happened in the conflict going forward. The next time this type of conflict appears, or the next time I'm uh, confront this type of experience again, this is what I want to implement as an improvement. And I don't know. I think it could be kind of useful just to think about like something we used to do actually a lot with the PO. Right? We had the principal objective that we would talk about, and just maybe like what is the one takeaway? Like what's the thing that like okay from the midst of this conversation we really want to like I'm going to commit to or I'm going to try to lean into because it's like I think there can be that talking about it isn't just talking about it isn't only bears so much fruit, but when you actually have a commitment to improvement is where the game changes. So I don't know. I kind of want to stage that for us as we begin to land the plane here of what's the improvement that you want to implement from the after action report.
Yeah, I have mine pretty simply. I think my principal objective moving forward is to really second guess my presuppositions of what uh a group of bad guys is. Because I've really because of current events in the world, I've had to kind of sit with why is it that that category of person to me is in this category of bad guys. And again, I do wanna hold to the category, but I don't wanna make the category so loose that it just fits a stereotypical read of the world, as opposed to, like, what I was saying, which is clear principles that we can avoid and protect against. So, I think that's mine, is really focusing in on, like, where have I, just for the sake of ease of process, over stipulated, uh the bad guy reality and where do I still need to, in my opinion, hold that category so that I can continue to have an enemy to to avoid and to fight against ultimately.
Mine would be very simply, just very quickly. I would say tolerance is the word that's coming to mind. So I think I because again, I am kind of picking that mercy route a decent amount. I think that I can sometimes allow things to come through. I'm naturally a conflict avoidant person, and so I sometimes allow things to come through that probably shouldn't, and I need to strengthen that tolerance and say, okay, I don't tolerate this behavior. And I'm actually willing to call that person out or make an action towards, even if it's very uncomfortable, uh, make an
Yeah.
action towards that individual or that situation being called out and confronted and cut. And so, yeah, tolerance and actually stepping into that in a way that is more just rather than more merciful.
Yeah, what's the line between tolerance and intolerance? That's good.
I think this is gonna be more of it may sound kind of vague, but I think it's an important one for me. So, some of my buddies that are, veterans might laugh at me or be like, why would you try to counteract that?" But I have always had a high situational awareness. Like, when I walk into a Costco, I'm like, "Where's the exits?" Like, I'm immediately when I go into a place, I'm thinking worst case scenario. Like, if someone comes into this restaurant right now and there's a shooting, what's my exit strategy? And I think sometimes that can lead me, especially in a season right now where just by proxy of where I live, and who I live with, the news is on just a lot, and you start to get exposed to, yeah, I don't know, you can live very fear thinking, right? And constantly thinking that everyone's a threat that you don't know. So I think the gospel is not one of fear, and the gospel is also not something that identifies every person as a threat, right? So I think that can be a very, Western world militaristic way of thinking. So I think my challenge to myself, kind of my the way I want to implement some improvement is from the conversation, just not, I don't know, take a freaking chill pill probably and just maybe not think everyone's a threat and not be so high alert all the time. So
Fair enough.
anyway, that's what we got.
Love it.
Good. Yeah, it's great to be with you guys. I like this a lot. It's good to be back.
Cool. Any
Good stuff.
anything else that should say, hey, Brad, I'm waiting for you. You want to land the plane? Huh?
Dude, is it me? I'll land the
I don't
plane.
know. I don't know. This is our
It's
first
been
one,
real
guys.
and it's
A
been
little
fun, you know?
turbulence right now. You're experiencing. Captain's
No,
instructed
it's
his flight
great.
attendants to sit into the seats. Okay, Captain, take
It's
over.
great. It's great. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next week.